What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. Yes, we are. You guys, I think that the price, I'm just going to cut straight to the chase. I think that the price is going to go lower. I do not believe that we've seen the worst of it. I think we have more to go. My last video that I made for Bitcoin, the title was Bitcoin to 39K, question mark, question mark, question mark, or something like that. Maybe there was more or less question marks, I don't remember. And I had a bunch of scathing comments talking about how people are upset that I went from talking about Bitcoin going to 100K, which, by the way, guys, it's still going to happen. Bitcoin's going to go to 100K, 300K, 400K, 500K by the end of this cycle. I don't think that we would get much past 500K, but I do think that it is possible to break 500K. Absolutely, I believe we're going to break 400K, but that's neither here nor there. All that is still on the table is all I'm trying to say. But people were getting upset that I was bringing up that Bitcoin could go to 39K. And it tells me that nobody was paying attention to the video itself. The people that were upset that I was talking about 39K, you clearly missed the point where I said I don't think that's going to happen. I brought it up. I made it the title. It's a little bit of a grab you title. Maybe it'll get people to watch the video, help the channel grow, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it'll piss some people off. That's not the intention, but no matter what you do in this world, you can't help that, right? It just kind of happens. 39K, let's see, right here. Right about there. That's 39K. And I want to ask, what's so ridiculous about that, right? Because we're so far away from it now? Because it would break the idea of this parabolic structure? Whatever, guys. We would still be holding this higher-low scheme that we've been holding this whole time, right? We literally, the reason why I talk about 39K is not because I believe it's going to go there. And I want to be very clear. I do not, and I thought I was clear in my last video, but I guess I wasn't. I'm going to say basically the exact same thing I said there. I don't think this is going to happen. This circle down here, I don't think we're going to get anywhere near it. I don't. But if we did, if all hell broke loose right now, we would be fine because we'd still have a higher low, structurally speaking. We would be at an area from the previous bull cycle where we found support, structurally speaking. If we take the relative low here, the most discernible low that we have to this high, that's right near the 618, the golden ratio. Totally fine, you guys. And again, higher macro low overall. It would be something that most people don't expect. It could cause a lot of panic selling and a lot of capitulating. The big boys and girls would buy a ton. They'd buy all the Bitcoins they could get their hands on, and you guys, we would run up in spectacular fashion. I want to point out right now that if this exact scenario happened, okay, maybe not, hold on, let's see. I drew it down there. Let's draw it right to that. First off, that would take until about June 10th, okay, the week of June 10th for that to be achieved at this rate. So that's 2 months, right? Because we're in April, May, June. 2 months. We could absolutely move down that much in 2 months. Secondly to that, from high to low, and I'm going over something that I don't even believe is going to happen, but that's a 47% drop. It's a bit steep, but it's not unachievable. Bitcoin can do that big of a drop if it wanted to, you know. We've broken above the previous all-time highs before the halving. All bets are off, man. Rules are not abided by this thing. I mean, some are, but some aren't. Maybe we don't go down 47%. Maybe we go down 40%. And that still would take us down to about 44K. I'm illustrating these numbers as a possibility, not to spread fear, not to promote the idea that we're actually going to go down there, because, again, very clearly, I don't believe we're going to. Just that if we were to not panic, the bull market is still on. We are still fine, and I want to illustrate how this could happen. You know, we're at this trajectory here, okay? Just like that, essentially, something like that. It might even be at a bigger trajectory if we were to do the actual low to the high here. It'd be at a more a higher slope. If we put that move here, by the end of this year, December, right? That's this right here. You can see at the dates down here, December 30th. By the end of this year, you guys, we would still be above $100,000. So if we moved down to this area in the next 2 months, which I doubt is going to happen, I very strongly disbelieve that it would happen, but it could. And if it did happen, things would still be fine. It's so fine, in fact, that if we made the same move roughly in the same amount of time that we just did since October of 2023, we would be above 100K. Okay, that's how perfectly fine we are right now. Okay, I don't think that's going to happen, but I just want to be clear as to where my head's at, why I brought it up, because I definitely feel like people misunderstood the message of the last video. With that being said, let's get into the message of this video. Let's focus more on what I do believe is going to happen, the possible numbers, the likely areas that we're going to go to. I want to get into that, and I'm going to pause the music for that. Let's see here. Okay, so if we take the previous cycle's high to the current, low from that cycle, there are two areas that we need to focus on: the 886 right here and the 786. All right. Generally speaking, whenever you break above the 886, which we've broken above it, you back test it for support and or go to the 786. The 786 and the 886 are the deep retracements on any Fibonacci ratio, any scale. Okay, so these areas, if not somewhere in between, is where we're looking for, and that gives us a nice kind of range between about 58.3K, previous high area here, right? Kind of even a support zone at the top here. You literally tipped this line right there, to about 50K, 50.3, 58.3, right? It's a nice $8,000 range essentially. And that does have some areas of resistance and support as well. It is an area that's been respected. We even have a little bit of resistance right there. If we take the most relative, from this relative low to this high here, that's kind of right around our 382 and our 236, very common areas to find support on in strong moves, which I think it's not debatable at all that this was a strong move Bitcoin pulled, right? Okay, so that's the area that I expect Bitcoin to go. However, if we go lower, if we exceed expectations, if we scare the shit out of people, everything's going to be fine still. People will be scared. They'll panic sell. They'll do exactly what they shouldn't have done, which is they bought up here or they bought here, whatever. They bought once it broke out or after it broke out, whatever, and then they're selling down here. That's not what you're supposed to do, especially not whenever you're maintaining structural integrity, right? I feel like it's very obvious how that would not screw things up. It would screw things up emotionally, psychologically for some people, but on the chart's not an emotional being. It's not a psychological being. It doesn't care. It would still be fine. The only thing that'd be messed up is the idea of this kind of parabola that I see some people talking about, right? Which I don't know if it is, if it isn't. Bitcoin is very familiar with parabolas, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was, but you never know. You ever want to know if you're in a parabola? This is how you do it. You ready? You take a line from the bottom, and then you go to the next kind of discernible low, which arguably could have been there, but we've already broken that line. So I'm not going to use that line. I'm going to use this line right here, right? Then you take your next low, and you put it at your next discernible low, which would have been here, right? So as long as we don't break that line, we could then inevitably form another low to low that marks up the angle of this kind of move, right? However far down it goes. If we were to move down this week all the way down to 58K, 57K, and then bounce, that would be parabolic behavior. Maybe if we moved even down to like 56K, 54K, and that's within that range again of 58 to 50K, that'd be parabolic behavior. Much past that, truthfully speaking, based off of this line here, I mean, okay, if we dropped all the way to 50.3K this week, it'd be fine. But next week it goes up a little bit. It throws that 786 area, the 50K area off the table for a parabolic move. But who knows, man? It still could happen. Maybe it is a parabola at that point. Generally speaking, though, whenever you draw lines like this, parabolas tend not to fall back to previous trend lines like this. They form new ones, if that makes sense. And I say generally because almost always that's how it is, but sometimes things are weird. This is crypto. Things can absolutely be weird. I don't know how much sense that makes. I'm just kind of going off on a tangent here. But I do want to look at the weekly RSI. This is a point that I've made back here and here right now, but I'm going to go over it right now again, is that we have only seen the RSI in the overbought zone for more than 11 weeks 2 times, okay? And both of those times, I'll show you when they were. This was one of them, right? And was this the other one? This was the other one, okay? This was 18 weeks here from the time we were in the overbought zone to the time we were out of it. It took 18 full weeks. And here, same thing, 18 full weeks, okay? And we can measure that right now if you don't believe me. If it looks, maybe this is... Okay, hold on. That's not the right one. I'm on Coinbase, aren't I? That's why. Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. You don't have to believe me because that was definitely wrong. Let's see. This time, I think this is what it was. Yeah. Okay, so from the time we weren't overbought here on this week, but the next week we were right there. Oh, that's not it. Right there. To the time that we were out of the overbought zone, right? Our last week in it was the 17th week, but 18 weeks right there, that's when we got out of it. It was on the 18th week. We've only ever been in the overbought zone for 18 weeks at a maximum is what I'm trying to go over. And it was the same amount of time here. I'll draw it just so you know I'm not BSing you, right? Right here this week, we got out of it. We were moving down. We already found our top by the time we got out of it, but we didn't move out until 18 weeks had passed, okay? Both of those times have one thing in common, okay? Or actually, I guess they have two things in common. One is that it was post-halving moves. We are still in a pre-halving move, technically, right? But this was a post-halving move. This was a post-halving move as well. The halving was in November. You know, it was very close to the halving, kind of like what we're at now, but it didn't start until after the halving, where the overbought zone that we're in right now started before the halving. So, and then this move here, again, post-halving as well. All-time high move, running up toward the all-time high here. And then this one, it didn't run up to this cycle high, but it did run up pretty massively in a very short amount of time. You know, very strong movements there, very strong movements there, right? And we definitely seen a strong move here, but it's not the same strength as we've seen either of the times where we were 18 weeks in the overbought zone. I promise you I have a point to this, because the only other times that we've been in the overbought zone for less than 18 weeks, the maximum that we've seen has been 11 weeks. I know it might seem boring, guys, but we're getting to the part where this all kind of comes together and makes sense. 11 weeks. How long have we been in the overbought zone now? Well, we weren't in the overbought zone this week. We were technically down here. So this week here to the current week, we've been overbought for 9 weeks. We are coming to the end of this week. We have 2 days left, okay? And that doesn't mean that we have to move up the whole time, but being that we have 2 weeks left, essentially, for what's regular for Bitcoin to be in the overbought zone, which if I went through and I measured all these, you'd actually see that it's about 8 to 11 weeks is the norm. We're right in that range right now. It's about time that we cool off. All of this has been to say that we are about to cool off on the weekly RSI, okay? And cooling off on the weekly RSI is a big deal. That would imply that we're probably going to consolidate. We're probably going to see movements down. What's consolidation look like? Well, it doesn't look like this, but you know, this, for example, this was consolidation right here, and we dropped a total, I don't know, I think we only dropped 20%. Let's see. High to low. Yeah, 20% there. A little bit more the second time. Let's see. What is it? 21.7%. So far, from high to low, we've dropped 17.5%. So what would 20% bring us down to? About 58.9K. Okay, if we went down to 58.3K, which is the top of the range that I'd illustrated earlier in the video, essentially right there, that'd be 21%. That actually is still less than this drop here. So again, the idea of going between about 58.3K to even down to 50.3K, which I think is less likely, we'll probably go in the upper 50K area, 55 to 60K area, but we could go lower. We could go as low as 39K and everything is still fine. That doesn't mean that I think we're going to go there, okay? I think we will see 100K before we see 39K. We might not ever see prices below 40K again, you guys. We literally could be at that point. I'm just saying the only reason I bring it up is because if we do, people will be panicking. I don't want you to be those people. I don't want you to be panicking. I want you to look at it for what it is, a ripe opportunity to sell your house, sell your shoes, sell the shirt on your back, and get all into crypto, man, because it's going to be a ripe opportunity for the people who are looking for opportunities. And if you're not looking for opportunities and you're caught off guard by a move like that, which would be totally healthy, I went over all the reasons why it would be healthy in the beginning of the video, you're going to get smoked. You're going to panic. You're going to sell at the low and then get creamed, man. It's just, that's just that. And let's say it does break structure. Let's say that is bad for the bull market. We only come up, we form a lower high, and then it's all over. Well, you still get this move. You still, you know what I mean? Like, you can still buy at a low point and sell at a high point, like whatever, if you want to make a quick trade. It's not all loss is what I'm trying to say. But I doubt in general that we're going to go to 39K. I'm only spending so much time talking about it because I did get a few comments. It just seemed like people didn't understand what I was saying. So I'm trying to be as clear as I can be. But I digress. What I am really trying to be clear about as of right now is that once we get out of this overbought zone, it probably will be some time until we get into it again. We won't just dwell up in these upper 65s, 60 areas. We probably will come back to the 50 area. We could go even lower, you know. If we look back at previous cycles, we hit the 50 several times. Actually, the 2015 to 2017 cycle, once we were above the 50 became our best friend for support, but we interacted with it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. We interacted with the 60 level kind of like after being overbought, I would say once here, twice there, 3 times as well. So we have a good chance of stopping at the 60. We do, but we also have a pretty good chance of stopping at the 50, and that could again imply that we're going to see Bitcoin consolidate for months, you guys, months, literal months. And I want to go over, I kind of want to measure actually what, I've done this before, but let's do it again. I want to measure how long it took us to start breaking out again after we saw the halving lull, okay? Whether it was pre-halving, during the halving, after the halving, whatever local high we had, how long did it take for us to get out of that zone of funk, right? Let's see. 2012 right here. 2012, it was November, end of November in 2012, which would have been this week here, okay? This is our shortest amount of funk that we had, right? Essentially from this high right here to the, and I would say this whole phase was consolidation. This was the pre-halving kind of dump consolidation phase. We didn't break out for essentially 21 bars. If you want to take it precisely from the halving, which would have been this week here, we didn't break out for 6 bars. So either a month and a half or 21 weeks, which it's not a half year, but it's pretty damn close to half a year. It's like 2 months shy of half a year. You know, again, 6 weeks to 21 weeks, however you want to look at it. I would say 21 weeks because I'm not just going off of specifically after the halving. I'm going off of the zone around the halving, which to me, that's a pretty discernible high. This consolidation area around the time of the halving, kind of basing it off of what we might see right now. That's 21 weeks of consolidation. The next halving was in July of 2016. It was July 9th, I believe. The high that we had here, until we broke that high, we were consolidating that whole time, but until we broke that high, it was essentially 27 weeks. 27 weeks, so 21 to 27 weeks, okay? And then the last high we had was in May of 2020. I think it was May 11th, but I don't remember specifically. I would feel comfortable saying this was the high. Yes, this was the discernible high out of this whole range. We did consolidate for a long time, but relative to the halving, I would say this was our high. And we didn't break out until about 24 weeks. And hey, wouldn't that make sense coming in line with the range that we've established? So we've got 24 weeks, 27 weeks, 21 weeks. I would assume 21 to 27 weeks sounds about right. And hey, we already had our top back here about 5 weeks ago, so, or 4 weeks ago. It technically is 5 weeks if you include this, but I suppose 4 weeks ago, 5 weeks including that week. But if we were to do 21 being the minimum, that would put us out until August, right? And if you've been watching this channel, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. If you've been watching this channel, you guys know that I've been talking about Bitcoin like chilling. I thought that we were going to run up to 100K. I thought this consolidation would have taken place after we saw 100K. I really did believe that, you guys. I really did. But as we've gotten closer to the halving, I've taken that off the table. I took that off the table before this dump. We were at 70K and I was talking about this stuff. Man, I literally meant to make a video last night. I did make a video, but my daughter was crying and kept getting in the way of it. Man, not getting in the way. She's important. This video is getting in the way of me taking care of her. I went to take care of her, and it took more time than it normally does. I had to stop the video. I redid it like 2 or 3 times. Couldn't post it, but I have the video. If anyone wants me to prove it, I guess I can post it in Discord. But it's not finished. You'll see it at the end. But I definitely was calling for prices to go lower in it. But that's beside the point. I don't care about being right or wrong. What I'm trying to say is I haven't just switched my mind. Okay, I have thought for a few weeks now that we would go up to about 100K, but this isn't a new thing, me talking about the prices consolidating. Whether we were at 100K or at the current price, the current high of, what is that, 73.7K, wherever the price was, we were going to consolidate probably likely until at the earliest, I was saying late May, but probably sometime in like June or July is what I was thinking. Now looking at this metric, it could be August, okay? It could be August. And then 27 weeks being the maximum that we've seen, it could be September. And that makes sense to me, man. I think that the end of this year, we will do tremendous things. We will go up phenomenally. We will finish this year with a bang. We do not need a lot of time to make big moves, okay, to have big gains, but we do need a lot of time to consolidate. That's just kind of the name of the game. The last phase of consolidation that we had, I don't even know actually, how long was it? If we took, I would say, even though this was the high, I would say we started consolidating around here, okay? And we didn't break out of it really technically till here. That was 32 weeks. Okay, so 21 to 27 weeks, that's nothing compared to what we saw in March of 2023 until essentially like October of 2023, right? This phase of consolidation was very brief in comparison. From here to the time that we broke out, I would say that was 9 weeks. A little pit stop there. I think that it will be larger than this consolidation phase, but shorter than this consolidation phase. More comparable to this one, but still shorter nonetheless. And just again, referencing it to any time that we've consolidated around the halving, I would say sometime in August to sometime in September, it makes sense to me. But I do want to leave it out on the table. Things are different this cycle. We are above the all-time high, the previous all-time highs before the halving. We do have ETFs coming in. We have different highways for institutional money to come in. Not that they haven't been here in previous cycles, but it is a bit different. There are some different kind of elements at play here, okay? Bigger money can come in easier, essentially, all right? What was I going to say? With that in mind, maybe we see a shorter amount of time in consolidation. Maybe it is sometime in July that we start to turn up again. Maybe it's sometime in May or June. And I want to be clear as to what I'm saying here by this phase of consolidation, which so far that we've measured, again, has been 21 weeks at a minimum, which would put us in the beginning week of August, to 27 weeks at a maximum, which is about the middle of September. That is not how long it takes us to find the bottom. That's not how long it takes us to find the bottom. And oftentimes, actually, you can see here, on this one, we found the bottom, let's see, the last time, and this was the COVID crash, but we found it 4 weeks after the high. Clearly, it's been about 4 weeks now. I don't think that we're going to find the bottom just yet, but 4 weeks after the high. This time, we found it 7 weeks after the high. And the time before that, we found it literally the same the same week of the high. Very volatile times. So, yeah, so I'm just saying it doesn't have to take a long time to find the low, but it is going to take a long time before we start breaking out to new highs. So you guys, what really at the end of the day, the whole point of this video is saying, get a blanket, get your favorite cup of hot cocoa or tea, put on a good movie, and weather the storm, you guys. We are going to be, it's not even really a storm. It's just going to be like cloudy days, right? It's going to be no fun in the sun for a little bit. We're just going to go to bed, wake up in a few months, and then it's go time again. That's all it is. So anybody that's ready for things to go right now, not a financial advisor, this is not financial advice, but I would wait. I think that we have yet to find the low of this move. I do think that it will go lower than this low, and essentially, if you're really looking to get in, whether it's in Bitcoin or any kind of crypto, I think that the best times to get in will probably be once Bitcoin is below this low in price. When it's below here, when it's below 61K essentially, it might be a good time to start DCAing into cryptos. Now, I do want to keep in mind, even though I said that, not just for Bitcoin, but for all altcoins, there are some altcoins that like to bottom out before Bitcoin does. They like to top out before Bitcoin does too. So that does happen. Litecoin comes to mind, Bitcoin Cash comes to mind, Chainlink comes to mind, right? There are coins that like to bottom out beforehand. XRP and other coins, maybe even XLM, they might not move down as much as Bitcoin does over this time because they haven't really been affected. They haven't gone up as much with Bitcoin. They might not go as far down with Bitcoin either. They might just be doing their own thing. So just be aware of that. Not all cryptos are going to dump, but most of them will. Okay, so if you are looking to get in some things, do your own research. Okay, make your own decisions. You're big boys and big girls. But if I was looking to put money into the markets, and I am, it's not going to be here. It's going to be maybe next week, maybe 4 weeks from now, sometime after we've dropped below 60K, 61K is what I'm thinking, because I do think at a minimum Bitcoin will go at least to around 58K, at the most 50K, 50 to 58K is what I'm thinking. And if it exceeds my expectations, if we happen to drop tremendously lower than that. The next area that would make sense, I mean, from a price perspective, would be around 44K, maybe 40K, maybe 39K, okay? And if we drop down there, we would be okay. And I've already gone over as to why that is. So I think I've said enough. I think I've ran in circles and repeated myself enough times to kind of go over that. But I guess I can look at the RSI. I mean, once we get out of the overbought zone, I think that'll be the testament that we are consolidating. If we're looking at the daily RSI for what it's worth, also just kind of this little shape that we have. I feel like we have broken out of this, relatively speaking, right? Like maybe it's more like that, something like that. I feel like we have broken out of this, but you can draw this a bunch of different ways, however you want to do it. I don't know. I feel like we are breaking out right now. That is a decent bit of volume that came in. It does look like a move to the downside that is taking place. The daily RSI is pretty neutral. It's not really bullish or bearish. I will tell you that rejecting the 60 area is not a good look, but also finding support on the 40 area is a good look. So you know, as long as you're in between this range, you are literally showing the most neutrality that you can. Being below the 50 does put the ball in the Bulls or the Bears court. But if we get a bounce anytime soon, the ball can go back into the Bulls court. That doesn't mean that we're going higher. It just means that we might not be proceeding to lower prices just yet. And in fact, it's very common, very, very common, and I don't know if this is accurate or not. If this is the line to draw, if I want to have it touch this touch point here, I don't know. Maybe it goes all the way back here. However it's drawn, it's very common after you break out to come back up, touch that line, and then go down. So if we make a move up to about 68, 69K, don't be thrown off that this downside is done. We could make that move and still absolutely have the downside continue. If we were to go up from here, what you would look for essentially would be a day to close. A day, not a minute, not a 4-hour candle, a day to, unless it's the last 4-hour candle of the day, in which case that would be the day, to close above $73,000. If we can do that, let's even give it a little bit more than that. Let's say about like 73.2K. Right? Not just like right above it, but a little bit more than like right above it. Maybe 73.5K. I don't know. Get a nice little separation from this line on a closing basis. That would convince me that we are moving up. And we could move up. We really could move up. Anything can happen. You never know. I'm basing everything that I've said in this video based around what has happened around the halving, a very key and critical, crucial point for Bitcoin and all of crypto. And we are having that happen in about a week's time. That's why that's been the main point of this subject. Can it be wrong? Can this time be different? Absolutely it can. It just hasn't been different any of the other times. So the only thing that's different about this cycle so far is institutional money, right? With the ETFs, we have a more enhanced, let's call it, institutional highway. We've always had, not always, but we've had institutional money for at least the last two bull cycles. This will be the third now, at least that we have documented, right? But this is the first time that we've had it with an ETF approved, multiple ETFs. So things could be different. We're above the all-time high before the halving. Things could definitely be different, but basing it around the assumption that it might look the same, it might not be the exact same, but it might look the same, I think that we are due for a move down to 58 to 50K, and that's all I got to say. So if you like the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you all for coming. Be prepared. It's going to be a very boring summer. That's my genuine expectation. It's going to be boring. So, yeah. Yep. And if not, I would love to be wrong. The sooner we go up to 100K, the sooner we go up to 400K, the happier I will be. But a lot of people are calling for Bitcoin to have a shorter bull cycle this cycle. And with what I've illustrated in this video, I just don't see how that would happen. I don't see how we could consolidate for that long and then we have one last run up. Like that would imply that if this cycle was to be shorter than the previous cycles, we'd have like one last run up if we were to consolidate until August or September, because we wouldn't have enough time for it to be a shorter cycle. Anything longer than that, if we see 3 months of growth after that, it would break the narrative of this shorter bull cycle that a lot of people are calling for. I don't think that Bitcoin is going to have a shorter bull cycle. I don't believe that at all. I do believe that, and not just Bitcoin, but crypto in general, will extend its bull cycle well into 2025. I think that until the end of 2025, probably literally around October, if not sometime late Q3, if not sometime in Q4, is where we're going to find our highs across the board on average. There will be coins that top out beforehand. There will be coins that top out afterwards, but just generally speaking, on average, sometime in late Q3 or early Q4 is what I'm looking at, specifically October. But it could happen, anywhere. I would say more than a year out from now. So I don't know. Everybody that's saying that the bull market's going to be shorter than it ever has been, it doesn't make sense to me. I don't know where they're getting it from. It just seems like it's a general thing that everybody has seemed to accept and is just saying because we're doing well. I don't understand how doing well before the halving equals we're going to have a shorter bull. It doesn't make sense to me. And I get it. Some people might say it's because we started it earlier, so it's going to end earlier. But hold up now. I keep trying to end the video, man. But hold up now. That's just not true. That's just not true, is it? Because if we go back, we look at the very technical lows for each cycle. I don't understand, just because we're doing well before the halving, I don't understand how that can be. Let's say this is the low, okay? Low there, high here, first cycle high, 18 months, okay? 18 months. Cycle low there, cycle high, 24 months, okay? Cycle low here. I would argue that the bull market, the first low was here, but the bull market didn't start till here. That's what I would argue. Crab market for a little bit, and then bull market started here. And that's 28 months. Okay, so 18, 24, 28, okay. And then the next cycle low was here. Our cycle high, the end of the bull market, was 35. The only argument that I could see is that this bull market will be longer than any other market we've had before. That's the only thing that makes sense based off the data that we have, because that's exactly what has happened, okay? So being where we're at now, let's say we went out to April of next year, April of 2025, okay, a whole year from now. That's 29 bars. That would be 1 month longer, debatably less time, but I would go off of this, but 1 month longer than our 2017 cycle. It'd be tremendously shorter than the last cycle. So at no point soon, not anytime in this year, do I expect us to top out. I do think that it's going to be sometime next year, and I think that it will be past April. I'm expecting October, and if we look at October, that's 35 months. That even goes against the trend that we're looking at right here. That even goes against it. I realize the music's on. I thought I was going to end the video, but this whole idea that the bull market started earlier, that's everybody's reason why they're saying that the bull market is going to be shorter this time, is because we're above the previous all-time highs. These all-time highs were held back. No wonder we're above them. We should have been above 100K last cycle. We really should have. I'm not just saying that. The DXY was taking off. COVID hit. Ukraine-Russia conflict, we were having quantitative tightening, which essentially is just saying that interest rates were going up. We had high inflation. The world was in a state of economic disaster. Saying that we are above this I would expect that we're above this previous all-time high. Of course we are. You want to look at it, you want to take it from a different perspective. Man, I am so fired up right now, but let's do it. From here to the time that we broke our high, right there, that was 1,500%, 1,500%, okay? From the low here to the time that we broke our high, that was 665%, okay? Of course, it's going to get smaller as we go on, but I promise you I have a point. From here to the time we broke our high, 533, 655, 533. Right here, you guys, we broke our high, literally 376. Like, what? We haven't done anything spectacular other than the literal sense of breaking past a previous all-time high. And actually by the whatever, it'd be like the divisor, not the multiplier, but whatever you divide this by, this amount of a decrease from the low to the point of where we broke our all-time high, it's actually smaller than what it should be. So again, just going back to the idea, no wonder we're above our previous all-time highs. Okay, that's one thing that's standing out, but it's throwing people in the wrong direction. I do not think that this cycle will be shorter. I think it's right on track. I think everything is fine, and we're not going to end the cycle until probably, again, late 2025. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. But I'm not a financial advisor. Don't listen to me. Just look at the data for yourself. Don't just be a parakeet, a little parrot that everybody else is. Don't hear one thing and then tweet it to the next person just because you heard it and everybody's like, oh yeah, I heard that too. We're all smart. No, that's not how it works. Critically think for yourself. Look at the information before you. We are right on track. The fact that we are above all-time highs is unique, but at the same time, it shouldn't, like, if you really look at it for what it's worth, if you look at all the growth kind of potentials that we have, the percentages of growth, what Bitcoin does at this phase in the cycle, no wonder we're above this weak ass cycle's previous all-time high. No wonder. Actually, I've got one more thing, man. I keep saying I'm gonna end it, but let's do this. Let's do this right here. All right, because this went to the 2272. Okay, found support on the 1618. Right. Essentially, by the halving in July of 2016. Right, it was here. July, we were above the 1886. That's what I want to point out. We were above the 1886. Okay. From this high to this low of the next cycle, we went up to the 2272 yet again, and this time by the halving in May, right? That was the last halving. We were again above the 1886. Okay, relatively speaking. Right? And again, we topped off at the 2272. This last cycle, however, we did not hit the 1618, did we? Or we did not hit the 2272. We stopped at the 1618. This time, we're coming to the halving. We're actually below the 1886 for the first time out of any of Bitcoin's previous cycle highs extensions. It's the first time. So we're above previous all-time highs. We're also below the 1886. There's an argument. There's a debatable argument that we're actually even lower than where we should be. And everybody thinks we're past where we should be, just because the whole reason for it is basing it off of this previous cycle's high, which again was weak. You know it's weak because we've never had a double top in Bitcoin's bull cycles ever. It's always a blow off top, blow off top, blow off top. Last cycle was different. We had world economic catastrophe striking everywhere. This video went on way longer than I meant it to, but man, I went off on a tangent. I feel like there's a lot of good information. If you like the information, if you stuck around, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more. Thank you for coming. I will see you on the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.